Welcome back to This Week in Film. It's the weekly podcast where we get together and talk about the movies we've seen over the past week. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by frigid Midwest Matt. Matt, how's it going?
It's going all right, Nick. How are you?
How is the weather out there? He asked for the first time.
Well, it's been cold.
Uh-huh.
And on Tuesday, I went outside to throw some stuff away, recycling and garbage and whatnot.
What was the temperature when you went to do this?
I think that it was negative 19 at the time.
Uh-huh.
Or no, maybe it was negative 22. Anyway, it was low, and usually it gets down to like negative 11 around here, and that's usually the point that when you breathe in through your nose, it feels like your nose hairs are freezing into ice daggers.
Uh-huh.
So I walked outside and expected it to somehow be worse than that, and it wasn't. And then once I threw everything away and started walking back to my apartment building, a gust of wind came, and it changed everything. the fronts of my legs were just suddenly sheets of ice.
Yeah.
It was really
That's
cold.
Brutal. Is it the coldest it's been since you've been in Chicago?
Yeah, I think so.
One time, and this was probably it was like Super Bowl weekend because it was when the Bears were in the Super Bowl and I came to visit you.
Yeah.
It was when I took my cold weather vacation and I visited my sister in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and the temperature there was like negative 10 with like a negative 40 wind chill. And I was walking around with my brother-in-law and we were going to do a tour of Lambeau Field, and the wind blew and it literally knocked the wind out of me. Like I felt the air get pulled from my body, and and I immediately went, okay, I'm done with this vacation. and then I left Green Bay, came down to see you in Chicago, and I got off the train, and I had to like walk between like the skyscrapers in Chicago, which are just wind tunnels at that point. And I've never been so cold in my entire life as when I was like walking to see you. And it was Super Bowl, like the Super Bowl had already started, so no one in Chicago was out because I think it was the Bears and the Colts were playing that year, because I think that's when the Bears lost to the Colts.
Oh yeah.
And I just, there was nobody out and it was so cold, and I wasn't entirely sure I was going the right way. What a vacation.
Yeah, if anybody out there hasn't been to a big city that's cold as hell, you might have this notion that you can beat the cold by just ducking in between some big buildings. That is not how things work.
Nope, makes the wind worse.
Yeah, it's just a little funnel of cold.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
So that was Vacation Corner.
All right.
If you would like to sponsor one of our corners, check us out on Patreon. Matt, this is a podcast about movies and not the weather. What have you seen this week?
I saw 2 movies this week, Nick.
Yeah?
I saw something called Happy Death Day, which I've been wanting to watch for quite some time.
Uh-huh.
And then I watched a movie called Pyewacket.
How do you even spell that?
Pyewacket.
Pyew. I had to give up already. Well, I watched
Pye and then whack it.
Oh, there it is. Pyewacket. All right. I watched 2 movies as well. I also saw Happy Death Day, and I watched another DC animated film called Batman and Harley Quinn.
Oh, actually, you know what? I didn't think about it, but I also watched Batman Year One.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've seen that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should just get started. I would love to start with Batman and Harley Quinn.
Okay, go for it.
This movie was just terrible. I mean, it was really, really bad. And I kind of had high hopes for it going into it because it's produced by Bruce Timm, who's like the mind behind Batman the animated series, the Justice League, and those like 90-ish DC cartoons that were awesome. And it's got Kevin Conroy as Batman again. It has who's the guy who plays Nightwing? I don't know. It's the guy who plays Nightwing who played the voice of Robin in the animated series too, like the Dick Grayson Robin. But he plays Nightwing in this movie. And they got a new voice for Harley Quinn. I couldn't figure out who the actress was. I guess she's from, I think it's Melissa Rauch. I guess she's on The Big Bang Theory, but I don't watch The Big Bang Theory, so I don't know. I don't know. But it's not like the voice from the cartoons Harley Quinn, and it just sounds like a girl doing the "Hey, Mr. J" kind of an accent, even though she never says Mr. J. This is a Jokerless Harley Quinn movie. Anyway, so the plot of this movie is Poison Ivy and some swamp monster named the Floronic Man, or Jason Woodrue. I guess he's from the fifth dimension or something. Poison Ivy and the Floronic Man team up, and they're going to try and destroy the world because, plants. They love plants and they hate people. And Batman and Nightwing are trying to stop her. And in order to do that, they need Harley Quinn to take them to Poison Ivy. Now, Harley Quinn, for whatever reason, was released from prison and has been off the radar for however long. And Nightwing takes it upon himself to, here's the thing. Batman's trying to figure out where Poison Ivy is, and Nightwing's trying to figure out where Harley Quinn is. So this is when the movie turns just terrible, is that they have this sequence of Robin walking around Gotham City in full costume, just walking on the sidewalk, holding up a picture of Harley Quinn and asking people, "Have you seen Harley Quinn?" And it's like a sequence of like cutaways of people going, "Harley Quinn, I don't know who that is." And like 10 different characters. And we keep cutting back to them because they're just so funny. That's the thing about this movie, is that they tried to make a Batman comedy. There's only one joke in the whole thing that worked for me, and I can't believe that it did. And I'll get to that. But like the idea of Nightwing just walking around the streets of Gotham City, just like walking around, like not like, and people are walking past him and not even giving him a second look, is just so ridiculous. And while he's walking, he comes across this restaurant called Super Babes, and it's basically Hooters, but the waitresses are all dressed like DC super heroines, and like there's like a Power Girl in there. There's a Starfire, a Wonder Woman. There's all kinds of like the female DC characters. And then there's a Harley Quinn character, and guess who she is?
You guess who she is?
Yeah, who is she?
Like who does the voice?
No, it's it's Harley Quinn.
She's Harley Quinn?
Yeah, the Harley Quinn is Harley Quinn. Uh-oh. So Robin follows her home in this long sequence of her walking from a nice neighborhood to worse and worse neighborhoods till she gets to her apartment in some condemned building. And I guess we're supposed to feel bad for her in this moment, because you're like, oh man, Harley Quinn's just trying to get back on her feet. And you're like, okay, good for Harley Quinn. And then Nightwing pops down and he's like, "Harley, we need to know where Poison Ivy is." And Harley Quinn is like, "Well, I don't want to get involved with you. Get away from me." And Nightwing...
This is sounding very familiar. I think I might have read this book.
Really? This was based on something?
Yeah.
Oh, it must be awful. And and so Harley Quinn's like, "I don't want to get involved. I'm done with costumes and capes. Leave me alone." And Nightwing won't leave her alone. And eventually they have this long drawn out fight. And at the end of the fight, Harley Quinn wins after like injecting Nightwing with some Joker venom. And he starts doing the laughing until he passes out. Then I know I'm getting really involved with the step-by-step of this, but it goes somewhere. Trust me.
Okay.
So Nightwing wakes up tied to a bed in Harley Quinn's apartment, and she's just monologuing to herself about how...
Oh, yeah. I definitely read this book because I remember that.
Okay. She's monologuing to herself about how she doesn't want to get involved, and Nightwing is awake and he's tied up. And then like they have like an exchange, and then she goes, all right, well, I'm going to get changed into my Harley Quinn costume. And she like strips down to her underwear and then goes to the closet and starts like sliding through all her different Harley Quinn costumes. And then she bends over and her underwear goes right up her butt and like a thong, and it cuts back to Nightwing and he's like, oh, a pretty lady is bent over in front of me. And she stands up, looks back at him, and looks down at what can only be his penis.
Yeah.
And the implication is that Nightwing has an erection, and Harley Quinn then proceeds to basically sexually assault him. Like she's like, we're going to do this, Nightwing, and you're going to like it. And he's like, well, if I'm going to like it, I guess I'll just like it. He basically says, I guess I'm on board. And Harley Quinn says, I'll take that as a yes. And then the lights go out. And the implication is that they bang. And it's like, what the hell am I watching?
You're watching a James Bond movie in reverse.
It was ridiculous. And then like the next scene involves like, and then it cuts away to Batman, and Batman is talking to some super cop. I don't understand.
He's just watching from the window.
Batman's talking to some super cop who has like a metal arm, and he wants information on some missing scientist. And the guy with the metal arm crushes this coffee can or coffee mug, and he goes like, Johnson. And so while Batman's talking, in the frame walks this guy who's just staring at Batman, and he's got a rag, and you can tell he's like cleaning the coffee mess with a rag, and he's just like staring at Batman while Batman's talking. And then he stands up, and as he goes to walk away, he turns to Batman. He goes, big fan, Batman, big fan, and walks away. And then Batman goes to find Nightwing, because Nightwing should have checked in by now. And he finds Nightwing and Harley Quinn having a tickle fight with each other, and he gives Robin a look. And as they walk away to go to the Batmobile, Nightwing says to himself, oh, like you never hooked up with a supervillain before. And I went, well, that's kind of a good point, Nightwing, still. Then this is like the next point I'm going to get to, and then I'll basically be done with this movie. They're in the Batmobile, they're driving for a while, and Harley Quinn goes, hey guys, do you mind if we pull over somewhere? Those hot wings from Super Babes are really messing with my stomach. And Batman's like, no, we're not stopping. Because Batman's kind of had it up to here with Harley Quinn's antics at this point. And she goes, well, we really need to stop because my stomach really hurts. And Batman goes, we're not stopping. We're not stopping for anything till we get to Bloodhaven. And Harley Quinn goes, fine, you asked for it. Followed by a long, loud fart where she like leans to one side, and Robin starts grabbing his nose going, oh my God, it smells so bad. It smells so bad. And Batman goes, yes, it smells like discipline. And that cracked me up. I was like, that's pretty funny. All right. That got me. And then they do it again.
Oh.
She farts again. And at this point, Batman covers his nose, and they stop at a gas station for Harley Quinn to go poop. Oh, there is one other thing I want to mention. They get done their trip, and they go to this nightclub, I guess, for henchmen, supervillain henchmen, because there's like a bunch of people from Batman, the animated series there, including Captain Clown.
Like these sorts of things just make it easy to capture everybody.
You would think, but they're all just there having a good time. And it's at this point the movie puts you through not one, but two musical sequences where we watch these two guys, like these two twin guys that have been in Batman before. I've seen them in the animated series. They sing a song. I forget the name of the song, but it's a song I've heard before. But they sing it in its entirely. And I took a picture, actually. I'm going to send this picture to you right now over the telephone. I took
Sending me a picture of a song.
No, of the what I sent it to you. You can describe it to the people if you like. But it's these two twin brothers singing a song.
Oh, there it is.
And the one guy bends down, like gets down on his knees and puts his microphone where the other singer.
Oh yeah, it totally looks like he's giving the other singer a blowjob.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell am I watching? What is this movie? So that song goes on for about 3 minutes.
And then I paused it and took a picture of it to save it for later.
I rewound it so that I could send it to you. And then immediately after that song, Harley Quinn gets on stage and sings a whole other song.
Yeah, well, you got to pad the runtime.
And at some point, someone orders Batman a glass of milk. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so bad. It was really, really bad. I hated it. It's like an hour and 20 minutes too. And I was like, God, this is awful.
Yeah, that sounds painful.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Check it out.
No. And then again, I may have already. I don't know. Maybe I saw the movie, but I'm pretty sure I read that book.
Oh man, it was really painful to watch. And they it's like they tried to make a lighthearted Batman cartoon, but it just doesn't work. And like the music in the movie is really like the music doesn't work. There's like this opening cartoon sequence that just doesn't work. Everything about it just feels like a bad idea. And it's another one of these DC animated movies directed by Sam Liu, Liu. And he's the guy who's directed like all of the DC ones. And this movie didn't have the problem that I've had with all of the other ones where it felt like characters would speak and wait and then they would speak again. Yeah. This one, it felt like they were having actual conversations. And it's always great to have Kevin Conroy as Batman. Like, I don't know why they ever have anyone else as Batman. And the guy who does the voice of Nightwing is great to have him back. But there's no Commissioner Gordon. There's no Robin in this movie. It's just bad. It's really just a bad movie. There's so many better ones out there to check out.
Well, speaking of which, I watched Batman Year One.
Yeah, okay.
And for folks who don't know, this is another book written by Frank Miller, who did The Dark Knight Returns. This movie's I think an hour and 5 minutes or so. And it doesn't have Kevin Conroy, but the guy who does Batman's voice is decent. Bryan Cranston does the voice of Jim Gordon. And most of the voice work's good. Eliza Dushku does the voice of Catwoman, but she's not very good.
Uh-huh.
But this is a book that's a movie that is about Batman's first year as Batman, where it's kind of like Batman Begins, and you actually do see a lot borrowed from this story in Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
And here you get to see a lot of the stuff that wasn't in there, but it's extremely loyal to the book, and I thought it was really good. I would recommend it. And by the way, if you're looking for, going back to Nick's thing, if you're looking for something that is a lighthearted Batman story, Batman's not the only one in it, but if you go to the old Justice League cartoon, there's an episode where I think it's Mxyzptlk turns Wonder Woman into a pig. And that episode, it shouldn't work, and it does. And there's even a point where Batman sings a song, and throughout the whole episode, every joke that was happening as I saw it coming, I'm like, oh no. And then they would make the joke, and I'd go, that's kind of funny. And they get to this point where he wants Batman to sing a song. I'm like, I do not want to see Batman sing a song. And then it happens, and it cracked me up. So check that out too.
I think it's an episode called This Little Piggy.
Probably. Yeah, and I'm not going to go much deeper into Batman Year One. I would just say it's a definite recommend. 65 minutes, good story. Check it out.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I remember liking it. I never read the Year One storybook, but I'm sure you've seen Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, I was like, I feel like Mask of the Phantasm is basically the same story, but done a little better.
Oh, I don't remember Mask of the Phantasm that well.
Oh, it's really good. They just had a Blu-ray come out of it, like they remastered the whole thing.
But isn't Mask of the Phantasm like he's chasing around someone who's like sort of holding court or something on all these supervillains?
Yes.
That doesn't sound similar to Batman Year One.
Well, because it involves Batman's early years. There's a lot of flashbacks to when he was first starting out, and
they do certainly borrow the storylines for a lot of different things. So
yeah,
if there's some overlap, yeah, I'm not too surprised.
Yeah, check out Mask of the Phantasm again. You would love it.
I'm open to seeing that again. But all right, so what's next?
So you want to talk about
Pyewacket?
Pyewacket?
All right, Pyewacket. So again, for anyone who does want to check this out, it's Pyewacket. So the plot to this movie is that there's a young lady who she's a teenager, she's in high school, and she's kind of got like somewhere between grunge and goth. She and her friends, and she's played by Nicole Munoz, who I've not seen in anything else. I don't think. Her name's Leah. Her mom is Laurie Holden, who is the blonde from The Walking Dead.
Oh, the awful one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, all right, I know who she is. Yeah, she is the terrible one.
But she's fine in this. The character's not written great because it's a little over the top, and then there's sort of a switch. But the idea is that there's tension. It's mother and daughter going through a lot of tension. And of course, Nick, give me a guess that if you wanted to have a movie about mother-daughter tension, what's the first thing you need to establish in the movie?
Oh, geez. No father?
Yep, he's dead.
All right.
Good job.
Huh,
all right.
Okay.
You know how this is done. So dad died at some point. They don't say why. It doesn't really matter. And for the most part, I'm actually going to give this movie a good review. It's clearly not an expensive movie, but it doesn't look low budget.
Uh-huh.
Like the production's pretty good, but the scares and creepy things are done in low budget ways. So what happens is mom and daughter aren't getting along. Mom's pretty insulting, and they do a pretty good job with the pacing to give you time to feel the powerlessness of this teenager. It's kind of like powerlessness of being a neglected kid, a little bit like Harry Potter or something.
Uh-huh.
And just having no voice because her mom's like, hey, guess what? I can't live in this house anymore because you're dead dad, so we're moving.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I don't want to move. And then her mom's like, I don't really care what you want. You don't matter anymore. And that stuff gets a little over the top, like I said. So these grunge goth kids at the very beginning of the movie are going to a book signing for an author of the occult.
Oh.
They're really occult. So when mom moves the daughter, she goes out, live in this cabin in the woods. She goes out into the woods and does a ritual.
The mom? The mom does the thing?
No, the daughter. The daughter does the ritual.
Okay.
To have Pyewacket come and kill her mom.
You're breaking up a little bit, so I'm just making sure we get all the facts.
Sure. So the daughter does a ritual based on what she's got in her occult book.
Okay.
To summon Pyewacket to kill her mom.
She wants to kill her mom?
Yes.
She wants to kill her mom because she doesn't want to move.
No, she wants to kill her mom because her mom already moved her and treats her like garbage and told her she's a loser. Like, literally. And it's still a bit over the top.
Uh-huh.
But, it's not... she doesn't come off as just a spoiled teenager. She comes off as kind of like frustrated and disturbed and just desperate.
Okay.
And that's helped by the fact that the acting is pretty good. And then once once she does the ritual, like she cuts her wrist because that's involved, and then Mom saw that she cut her wrist, and all of a sudden, Mom's like, "Oh man, I've been too hard on you," and she just like eases up. It sort of shakes her out of things, which is great timing because now Pyewacket's coming.
She's already done the ritual, right?
Yeah, and so that's where the scares start. And it's like I said, it's effective stuff like sounds. There's one thing that's there's like a movement in the background that's pretty cool, and like there's this one little thing where like they spill milk, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool how this milk spilled, and so it's just these little tiny things that give it a pretty good atmosphere. And up until the end of the movie, I was pretty with it. I would say it's not quite the level of quality, but like I would say it's kind of like a modern day answer to The Witch. Which takes place in like olden times. This is just like The Witch taking place in newen times.
Okay.
And youngen times. and sometimes you're in the vantage point of Pyewacket, and that's done pretty well.
So I mean, you may have said it, and I may have missed it. But what is Pyewacket?
They don't actually say. I guess a demon.
Okay. But he walks the earth, kind of a thing, or.
Well, once Pyewacket is summoned, you don't exactly see it that much. I mean, there is one point where you do, but it's kind of blurred out. And so, yeah, it's kind of crawling around, and when you're in its vantage point, there's something about the way the camera moves. It's not every scene that it's done perfectly, but it's pretty effective. I will say, without spoiling the ending, that the end of this movie, it doesn't go like super outright dumb. It's not like one of those movies where like The Haunting, where all of a sudden she's, "Grandpa, you're haunting my house." Like it doesn't take a weird turn, but there's some stuff that happens in the last 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, that makes the last 1 minute not surprising at all, but the way it plays out, it's kind of like you're left at the end of the movie going, did that movie think that was a twist? Because it wasn't. Like I actually don't quite understand why this person did what they did, because I feel like we already knew that.
Yeah. So
I would recommend this movie. And if you like horror movies, I think it's a tight hour and a half. Yeah, if you like horror movies, check it out.
Okay. Pyewacket.
It's not too it's not very like gory or anything like that. The horror element is really the atmosphere.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
cool. Then that brings us to the movie we both saw this week. Happy Death Day. How did you feel about Happy Death Day, Matt?
Overall?
Yeah.
I truly enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
I agree. Up until the last 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
I did not like the last bit of it. But
all right.
But if you haven't seen Happy Death Day, we're going to spoil it. So check it out because it's totally worth watching.
Well, let's give a plot before we dive into spoilers.
Horror movie Groundhog Day.
Oh, there you go. Well done.
So like this girl, she's like this sorority girl whose name is Tree.
Which that's a nickname, just FYI.
Yeah.
Her name's Teresa, but people call her Tree.
But she's listed as Tree in the credits too, which was really confusing. I was like, what Tree? But it's Teresa. She is a horrible person. Just like the worst kind of sorority girl for the most part. And I guess, she's in college and she wakes up in the dorm room of some guy she doesn't know. hungover, and she gets up, is a bitch to the guy, leaves, and goes about her day until the end of the day when she's like on her way to this party and she gets murdered. And the minute she's murdered, she wakes up again, reliving the day she just did. And basically she kind of figures out that in order to stop the loop, she's got to solve her own murder, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from there.
Yeah, it's a very kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of humor horror movie. So if you like that sort of thing, if you enjoyed the kind of in Scream how the ghost face killer was clumsy and stuff, and that sort of stuff makes you laugh, check it out.
Yeah, definitely a total recommend. I'm very excited to see the sequel that's coming out not too far from now. And totally cool. Like, I can't believe I haven't seen this movie until we watched it last night. It's great. So from here on out, we're going to spoil the hell out of the movie.
Spoiling it out.
So you've been warned. I like this movie a lot. The one thing that I think the movie needed a lot more, and I hope is in the sequel, is I hope the sequel is rated R. Because this was like a goreless horror movie. Like,
but it was rated R, wasn't it?
No, it was PG-13.
Oh, okay.
And like a lot of the violence is really, I don't want to say censored, but it's like non-violently violent. Like she gets murdered so many different times, but you never really get to see her get murdered, which I think would add to like the comedy aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like this movie, I feel like didn't really know its tone. It felt like it had an idea of what it wanted to do, but wasn't fully committed to it. Like for instance, it wants to be a comedy, but it backs off of just sheer jokes. Like there's some really good moments, like that one sequence where they have like the montage where she's walking around naked and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Like that whole montage I thought was great, where she's like cutting her hair off, doing all kinds of different things because she knows she
starts having fun with it.
She has fun with it. And I wish the movie had more of that.
I wouldn't mind more of that, but I felt the tone was pretty consistent.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like the movie just didn't really embrace itself to its fullest extent. I think that there's one way to look at it might be like to maybe want the R, which I wouldn't say is wrong, but I'd also say that this is a PG-13 horror movie done right. Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. The main actress who plays Tree is a girl called Jessica Roth, who I'm going to click on her name.
She's awesome.
She was amazing. I guess she's in La La Land also. But
I didn't expect her to be great.
I didn't either.
But
I kind of
throughout the movie, I'm like, her comedic work is good. There's a moment towards the end, and it doesn't feel too crowbarred in, where she's actually a bit upset. I thought that worked really well too.
Yeah, where when she was talking to her dad. Yeah, I felt like that was a great scene. I felt so bad for her after that, because I was like, man, she's just gonna have to go have that conversation with her dad again.
Right. Well, and the scene where she wants to be arrested, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. She does a phenomenal job. All the other actors do a great job too. Like the main guy, the Carter guy.
Yeah.
He does a great job. Like all those actors in that kind of a movie, like that Groundhog Day kind of movie where you have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I really believe that she was restarting the day every time. Like it didn't feel like they were phoning it in any of the times.
Did you notice that the boyfriend guy had weird sideburns?
The gay guy?
No, the boyfriend guy.
Oh, the Carter guy.
Yeah, Carter. He's got weird sideburns that like they shoot forward instead of down. Like they're like, and they're really wispy. They sort of like outline his cheeks or something. I don't understand what they are.
I did not notice his sideburns.
Yeah, they're weird.
But what a good movie. It was so entertaining. Up until the end, like the twist or whatever, I didn't care for. I was like, this is dumb. And
I didn't really.
I mean, the movie has
mind it.
The movie's got to end. I get it. It's got to end. But
my problem with that scene, because I mean, it's pretty quick. It's like, here's a twist ending.
Yeah.
Sort of, and then it's over. But it was the acting. Because and I mean, double spoiler because we're talking around this, but like her roommate's the one that killed her, and I already knew that from the preview for Happy Death Day to You, because she says that in the preview for Happy Death Day. Oh, does she?
Oh man, I'm so glad I forgot that.
Yeah, but I was. I was like, all right, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the roommate was the one person in the movie that I thought was not a very good actress.
Yeah, my wife said that she has like a neck like a giraffe. Like her neck just keeps going up, up, up.
Well, I don't know if it's her neck's fault. It leads to her just not performing well. And that whole scene, if it was done a bit more like who's the girl from Scream? She's her best friend, like Tatum or something. The one who married Marilyn Manson at some point.
Rose McGowan?
Yeah. If she was playing it, someone like that, like it still would have been an unnecessary twist, but it would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But there it was just like, man, this feels kind of soap opera-y.
Yeah.
With this bad acting.
Yeah. Like every time the girl tries to solve her, like that's the one problem. And like, I mean, it must suck to have to die every day. But like when she figures out that it's her roommate and her roommate just starts attacking her, why doesn't she just die and come back the next day and do it again?
I think they tried to cover that a little bit by saying that she comes back in worse shape every time.
Yeah, they abandoned that idea though. Like
I think that may be the only reason that's really in there is so that she's not using, I don't know, because she is using death as a solution. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like they kind of add a ticking clock element with that, where like the one morning she wakes up and she just kind of collapses and she goes to the hospital, and the doctor that she's having an affair with says, "We got your X-ray results back. It looks like your insides are dead."
Yeah.
And she does the math and she's like, oh, every time I die a little more each time. Like she says, I'm like a cat running out of lives.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting ticking clock mechanism, but they don't reference it again.
Yeah, she does die a few more times after that, and it's not they do reference it one more time after that.
Do they?
But she's not seemingly that much more roughed up as it goes along. So it doesn't really hammer it home that she can't just let her roommate kill her.
Right.
So you got a point. It's not, if that was supposed to stop you from thinking that, it's not emphasized enough to do that.
Yeah.
But I think if they overemphasized it might have taken away from the comedy a little bit too.
I also didn't like how she goes to the hospital like in her Dexter murder outfit, and and she like holds a knife to a cop's throat, and then she's just able to leave the hospital the next, like after that, like her whole plan involved her going at the time the cop was going to go in the room. Like, why didn't she just go earlier and say, hey, he's going to escape, somebody double check his bonds in there. Like that's the whole end of the movie. Like have a lot of like plot, like why horror movie questions. Yeah. It definitely says give it a break, and you totally do, because the movie is totally fun.
Yeah, if it was a serious movie, I'd have issues with it. But I'm like, whatever, I can roll with this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to the, you said that she's like the worst kind of sorority girl.
Uh-huh.
And I sort of disagree, because I put a lot of thought into this, because I was like, how is it that I am liking this person.
Right.
because they don't have her be as dumb as the other annoying characters. And you've seen a lot of horror movies with me. You know that I do not care for like the annoying, like party characters that are
Right.
just like all about partying and being annoying.
Yeah.
And so like what I figured out, like I put likable annoying in my notes, and what I figured must be the case is that she's likable enough, partly because she's not doing the same. She's not as shallow as the other ones. She's pretty shallow, but not as shallow as the other ones. And as she's walking around, anything that's going on around her that also annoys us annoys her as well.
Yeah,
she's
that's
judgmental
true,
of the other judgmental people.
Yeah.
And I think that allows for her to be likable. You're like, oh,
Right.
okay, you get how much the people around you suck.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And as the movie goes along, her character changes in a positive way, and she doesn't just change for the sake of changing. Like, she realizes all the terrible stuff that she's been doing, and she doesn't like herself for it. So you go on, like the character has a great arc, up until the end when she puts on her murder outfit and is going to go kill someone.
Well, as a movie, I think too, one of the reasons that I'm not too bothered by all these annoying people is, like she becomes likable, but it's also that you're not supposed to like the other people. Like in a lot of movies, it's like, oh God, I can't stand this like cast of main characters,
right?
Because they're so fucking annoying. But you're not you're usually supposed to be rooting for them. Here, it's like, okay, I'm actually supposed to be annoyed by these people, and the ones that I'm rooting for are the two people who are the most likable.
Yeah.
So it works, and you get to hate the people that are in all these other kinds of, the kinds of people that are in these other movies and stuff. And I got to say, I was with this movie like from Jump Street, because at the beginning when the Universal logo goes like 3 times, I really dug that.
I liked it too. My wife did not like this movie as much as I did, and we hit play on the movie, and I wasn't quite settled, and the logo starts doing that thing over and over again, and I'm like, oh, hold on, I'm not ready, and we hit pause, and she goes, you're not going to rewind it, are you? And I'm like, I guess not. Yeah, what a fun movie. And it really under the radar. Like, I'm really glad that it did well enough to earn itself a sequel. So that people, like, I don't know how the sequel's going to be. It might be just terrible. But like, it got me to watch the original, which I hope it's done for other people, because it's a fun movie. The part that I hated the most, though, was right at the end when you think it's over, and the guy says, oh, you know what this was like? That movie Groundhog Day. And I'm like, oh, you didn't even have to mention it.
I have 3 things in my notes that were things that I was like, oh, this is annoying or silly. That one was the one that actually bothered me. Yeah. Because I was like, you just didn't need to do this. And then once they make the joke, he just keeps talking about how she should see it. And I'm like, oh, get away from this. Like, just let it be.
And you can tell they did it late, too, because it's all off camera. Like, while the camera's pulling out from the restaurant, and
it's like pretty much ADR.
Yeah. What were the other negatives you had?
Well, the other thing was why is there a noose at the top of the bell tower?
I think that's the rope for hanging for ringing the bell. She just wraps it around her neck.
I guess so. And then the other thing, which is just weird, it's not even a complaint, it's just weird, is that the mascot's a baby.
Oh yeah.
What kind of school would have a mascot?
That was dumb but effective.
It's funny, yeah. And the face, the baby mask actually does work pretty well for this whole
and in the movie
kind of thing.
It really works for me until the killer takes the mask off. Like, once the mask goes away is when the movie starts to fall apart for me a little bit. For me, that's when the movie starts going downhill. But still, it's fun, cool movie.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I when there's the fake killer, you know, the woman that the guy that her roommate's kind of framing or whatever.
Right.
When he, like, I was like, maybe I misunderstood something. Maybe her roommate's not the killer. And it's this guy. That was disappointing. I think I was kind of relieved in a way that it was her roommate, because I was like, just to have it be some random guy would suck.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the serial killer's what's it, a red herring where it's supposed to throw you off.
Yeah.
Of who the real killer is, and she has like that perfect day where she has like the cupcake with the guy at the end, which is very 16 Candles ish, and she goes to sleep and she wakes up and she's like, "What? I solved this!" She starts just screaming, "I ended it!" And then she like runs home, and the girl's there, and she's like, "I died in my sleep. It was the cupcake." And I'm like, "Oh, this movie just is the end," and that's what's happening right here. Is they just ran out of movie time. The ending's pretty sloppy, I feel, but up until that, like I've kind of figured out that it was the roommate, because they mentioned that the roommate has some, she says something like, "And I can't wait to hear about your mystery man," to the roommate. And I'm like, oh, maybe the roommate is like involved with the killer in the hospital and she sets him free. And that's what I thought was going to be the twist, is that the roommate was setting the killer free, but that was the twist, but it was a red herring because the killer was the roommate and she was trying to poison her.
Yeah.
But, but like some of that
didn't
stuff
bother me too much.
Some of that stuff doesn't work, because like it doesn't work if you start thinking about it too hard. You just got to go along for the ride, because like how was she able to find her down when she was like driving away?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's got horror movie like villain physics.
Yeah. And like the killer's able to find her no matter where she goes. And it works. It works until you start thinking about it too much. But like that scene with the cop where she's like, "Thank you for arresting me," and then he gets hit by the car, and he's just laying in like a crumpled heap. And then for some reason, gas is pouring out of the gas fill door.
Because that's how that works.
That doesn't happen. But I was like, you know what? I don't care. Keep going, movie. You're winning me over.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So that's a solid recommend from both me and Matt, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if you do feel like the ending doesn't quite work for you, it's not enough to detract from enjoying the hell out of this movie.
Yeah. So definitely check it out. And I'm excited to see the sequel when it comes out on video, because I'm not going to go see it in theaters. I just won't have the time. Well, then I can't wait to hear about it. Well, that brings us to the next segment on the. That's all your movies, right?
Yeah. But before we go into our lists, since that's like the final thing, I just wanted to point out that let's go over to DC Corner again, or Aquaman Corner.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard the news, but like Aquaman is now the highest grossing DC movie above The Dark Knight.
I did hear that.
I'm just so mad.
The movie's going to make over $1 billion.
I have been listening to so many new podcasts in the past week to hear reviews of Glass and Aquaman.
Yeah.
to just kind of, process these clashes that I have.
Right.
Like,
what is
enjoying Glass and people at all enjoying Aquaman. It's not working well.
What has your research told you?
That the people who don't like it, are like either of these movies, are getting everything right. And then that there are other people. Like, half the people love these movies. And then the ones who don't, I'm like, okay, I feel sane again. Yeah, it's not resolving anything.
Yeah.
And then to find out that Aquaman is the top grossing DC movie is just so disappointing. When it's such garbage. It's so poorly put together, and it's such a lazy piece of crap. And then there's like The Dark Knight. That's a legitimately great movie. and which one's going to be encouraging DC to go with, a kind of movie in the future. It's probably going to be this utter garbage.
Yeah, they're not gonna follow Christopher Nolan's thoughtful, introspective crime fighter movie. They're gonna go with the colorful, crazy Aquaman movie.
And I'll bet you that it won't work after that. I don't know why. I don't know why Aquaman did as well as it did. I know a lot of it has to do with like overseas audiences, but I guess I don't know what overseas audiences actually like, because I can't pinpoint.
Like a lot of the times it has to do with like it's the reason that Stallone and Schwarzenegger movies did so well is because the plots are very simple to understand and very easy to translate into the people in other cultures are able to understand what's going on without having to adjust from their normal day-to-day understanding of things. Like, it's like how when I tried to watch that Bollywood movie, the Pyewacket, where I'm like, I don't understand anything that's going on in this movie. Like a movie like Aquaman is real easy to figure out what's going on. Like, oh, he's the rightful king, big battle. This was a fun action movie, big budget movie. And I think that's what brings people in.
But it wasn't fun.
I know. I didn't have fun at all. I did have fun with you watching it. Like, it was, if I had to see that in theaters by myself, I think I might have walked out.
I would have walked out. I would have walked out. I would have walked. Yeah, probably at that moment that I looked at my watch and saw that we're an hour into the movie and it could start there.
Yeah.
I probably would have been like, well, screw this. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I will say this. One of the reviews that I listened to, what's the name of this review? It's kind of like, if you and I were hip, and we also had
you mean more hip?
Yeah, sure, and had a female co-host. This show might be us. If I can find the name of it, I'll let you know. But they could not let go how bad the music was.
Oh, the music was awful.
Yeah, and they were just hammering that home over and over again. I was really glad that someone hated the music in that movie, because they kept talking about how it was like practically doing like do 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 do, and like
we're in the desert.
Practically sound effects for cheesy stuff. So
could have just peed on it.
Podcast is called Movie Trailer Reviews.
Movie Trailer Reviews. Okay.
Yeah. And then I also started listening to one because I found their review of Glass and kind of enjoyed that. But it's called The Countdown, Movie and TV Reviews. And the two hosts, man, they're kind of likable, but one of them has this like nutso laugh that just it sounds like if you were to listen to Scooby-Doo on crack.
Okay.
Like this guy laughing, it's a little hard to take, but the two guys obviously like have known each other forever, so they've got kind of a likable chemistry. And I don't agree with all of their takes on things, but they kind of balance each other out. Mm-hmm. So there's usually, of the two of them, one of them I can agree with, and their take on Glass I was pretty good with.
When the other people that you listened to about Glass, did they have that liked it? Did they like it for the same reasons I did?
I don't know. I think I turned those ones off.
Because the people that I've talked to that have seen it, they like it for many of the reasons that I did. But I haven't talked to anyone besides you who didn't like it. But
I heard enough.
But I've only talked to a few people who saw it.
I heard enough of the ones who did like it to get the feel that they're pretty much Shyamalan fanboys.
Those exist?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Chris Stuckman's a Shyamalan fanboy.
Is he?
Yo, yeah.
He liked Glass too?
He reviewed it twice. He did a non-spoiler review and said he wasn't giving it a rating. And you could tell he was pretty disappointed with it. But then I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that I know what's going on in his head, but it sure looked like he wanted to like it. And then he came back, and someone in the meantime took his spoiler-free review and said this was a negative review, and that seemed to piss him off.
Oh.
And his spoiler review was suddenly, I don't know, like it seemed like it was more favorable than before.
Okay.
Like,
I liked Glass.
I know.
All right, so that brings us to. Are we at a DC corner?
Yeah.
All right, it's time for our movie rankings for week 101. Matt, where will you put Batman Year One?
That is a good question, Nick. Let me look at my list.
Okay.
Batman Year One. I think I'm going to put that under Life After Beth.
Okay.
No.
Oh,
no. Hang on. Yeah, actually, I enjoyed it more than Vice, so I'm going to put it under Life After Beth.
Okay. Let me, Batman Year One, week 101. And then you saw Pie Chart?
Pyewacket.
Pyewacket?
Yeah. I am going to put Pyewacket above Life After Beth.
Oh, just into the... So, just so everyone's clear, Batman Year One went into Matt's number 9 spot, so it's breaking the top 10, and you're putting Pyewacket in the number 8 spot. Pyewacket. Autocorrect wants me to change that to Phew, a key.
Yeah, it wasn't enjoying me trying to write about it either.
Week 101. And then where would you put Happy Death Day?
Happy Death Day is going in my number 4 slot, right under... Oh, sorry, number 5 slot, right under Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and above Bumblebee.
Okay. Come on.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough to beat out Spider-Man
Death
Into
Day.
the Spider-Verse.
Week 101. All right, great. Aquaman is in last place at 23, and LA Confidential still at number 1 for you.
Yep.
Now it's my turn. And what did I talk about this week? I talked about Batman and Harley Quinn. I'm going to say that... Oh, God. I'm going to put that at my bottom. Worse than Mrs. Claus.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
It was really bad.
You should watch bad. It. Wow, I'm surprised.
There's got to be like 5 dick jokes in it.
Wow, like, it doesn't help that it was short.
It wasn't short. It's like an hour and a half.
But I mean, didn't it at least feel shorter than Granny, whatever that was?
Mrs. Claus?
Granny Claus? Yeah.
No, Mrs. Claus. Mrs. Claus took us 3 nights to watch it. Maybe 4. I don't remember. It's worse than Mrs. Claus. Like, I had no joy in Batman and Harley Quinn, except for that one moment when she farts and Batman says, "It smells like discipline." That cracked me up. I thought that was funny.
The fart itself didn't make you laugh, right? It was
no.
Thing.
Like when the fart happened, I was like, "Is this happening? Is this really happening in a Batman comic cartoon? Or like, is this really happening?" And then they did it again.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. And then the other movie I saw was Happy Death Day. And I'm going to put that... Boy, I can't put it above Predator. I'm going to put it into the number 9 slot. Above Once Upon a Time in America and below Wreck-It Ralph.
Really?
Death.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Day.
Better than that. Okay.
Week.
Wreck-It Ralph was good.
101. And I think at some point we should be able to, like, long into the future, we should be able to come back to our list and analyze it and see if we made mistakes. because like as time goes on, Teen Titans Go to the Movies is now at like number 16 on my list, and I feel like that should be higher. Because I really enjoyed that. That is a great DC animated movie. You should check that out. You would love it.
Did you enjoy it more than the things above it?
I don't know. Like I'm probably going to see it again, and like as time goes on, I might enjoy it more than I did the first time I saw it. So like when I see it again, would I put it higher on the list? Maybe, but that's a question for another day. So I guess that's going to wrap things up for us this week. Anything at the end, Matt?
Man, I've been listening to so many new podcasts. I feel like I should have one to recommend. But actually, you know what? There is a podcast that I would suggest, and that's called Reply All. Mm-hmm. If I haven't recommended it before, I strongly recommend it. Doesn't come out with episodes super frequently. It might be like every other week or maybe once a month. They call it a show about the internet, but it's actually pretty loosely tied to the internet. And it's two guys that get along pretty well. And they have a producer who does this thing. Sometimes they have like episodes that include or are all this thing called Yes, Yes, No, where the two guys are likely to know what's going on, but their producer is like, hey, I saw this post or this meme or something. Well, I have no idea what it means. Can you tell me? Uh-huh. And then by the end, they try to get it to the point where all three of them would be able to explain it. But they also end up doing some pretty interesting investigation stuff. Like I think it's one of the two guys in particular will like track these things down. So in the last episode, it was about the robocalls.
Yeah.
And they get into like, here's what's going on with robocalls. Here's how these things are working. And usually these things pop up because someone involved in the show is like, hey, I've been getting this robocall. What's the deal? Yeah. And then the guy will go, I don't know. Let me go find out. There's one 2-part episode where I think it started with someone forgetting something in a cab and then trying to call and find out where their wallet went or something like that. And by the end of the 2 episodes, he's in India, like talking to this guy that's running this scam operation. It's really cool. And it's nice for someone like me who doesn't know computers and things like that.
Is it like an NPR show? Because it sounds like it's got a budget and whatnot.
It definitely has a budget. I'm not sure if it's on NPR or not. It's part of the Gimlet Media family. So, yeah, it's definitely, like, high on the quality chain.
Okay. Is it like a Radiolab kind of storytelling?
If I were going to compare it to something, I think Radiolab would probably be the closest.
Okay.
Like old Radiolab. Radiolab really lost me.
Yeah, you know, it kind of lost me, too. Like, I'm not sure where, but, like, I used to be really excited to see a new episode, and now I'm just kind of like... Either I'm just like not interested or I don't feel like crying.
Well, I think what happened was they lost Lulu Miller, mm-hmm. who went over to work on Invisibilia, which is a great podcast. Check that one out. And I think she was a big part of it because the show used to be kind of philosophical.
Yeah.
And really look at like what are the implications of the questions that we're running across?
Yeah.
And they get really into that. And Invisibilia sort of does that. And then once she was gone, Radiolab just became story time.
Yeah.
And instead of like
it's really true.
Yeah, instead of like getting into like these philosophical questions, they'd be like, let me tell you this story. And I'm like, you know what? That's the part of This American Life that I always skip. At the end where they start getting into story time, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to skip that. Yeah. So once Radiolab started having episodes where it's just, we're going to tell you a story, I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I can make up my own stories. I don't need to hear this.
Yeah, that's great. I feel exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I got away from Radiolab. Like, I'll go back and listen to old Radiolab episodes, and like the one thing that about the end of a Radiolab episode was like I'd always never had an answer for you. Mm-hmm. Like the story was never over, and I was always like, oh man, I wish this this story went on for forever, and it told me. I wish it would just tell me how to feel at the end. But like that seems to be like all that they try to do is just tell like a very specific story, and then at the end it just finishes. Like it doesn't have that vague. Well, like only the future knows the answer.
It's not like thoughtful,
right?
Or thought-provoking.
It's still really well
produced. You don't walk away
like,
still chewing on it.
I love the way that they produce the show, like the way the sound design of the show and all that stuff. But the way that they present their stories just doesn't strike me as well as it used to.
Yeah, the actual content's not as thought-provoking. And even if they did answer the question, like in I think it was like an episode about color, they give you pretty definitive answers to some things, but they still end up raising more questions.
Yeah.
So at the end, you're like, now I gotta walk around thinking about that.
I'm interested in so many more things. Like my favorite episodes are the ones that always start off lighthearted, and then by the end, you're like, well, I think I might cry for the next 10 minutes. This story about a sticker factory. And, it's involved with something, I don't know. There was no sticker factory episode that I'm aware of. But
oh, yeah, but I think it was in the color episode, too, where they were like, they were talking about, this shade of yellow comes from this sap in this tree. And when you go to check out these trees, there are bullets in them because this is what people used to be massacred or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that was Podcast Corner.
We'll call that Pod on Pod.
Yeah. If you would like to sponsor one of our corners, like for instance, we do Preview Corner when we go to the movies, and Preview Corner is brought to you by the Big Ticket. If you want us to mention your name every time we mention a corner, check us out on Patreon. Go to thisweekinfilm.com. You'll find a link to it there. Other than that, if that's the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
See ya.